Hi everyone, I have a really important video that I would like to make. Today's November 8th, it's election day, and I just want to share with you a table that I found. And this table, actually the original table that was found on this was found by Kurt Juergen. He had found the word election, so I just want to give credit where credit is due. And Kurt Juergen was the first one to find this word in the codes, and it's a really amazing word to find because it's 8 characters long, so it's a pretty long word. But what I didn't realize until just this morning is that there's actually 2 matrices that it comes up in. Now, the first matrix that I had talked about this briefly, that it comes up in Samuel 2, as you can see here, I had talked about this briefly in another video. It was in this video right here that was on atomic war. As you can see, it's 4 parts to this video. And I had talked about this Bible code in that video, and at the time I was assuming that this was the only matrix that it comes up in. But I've been doing some more research on this word, because in the video that Kurt Juergen had done, he had put in the words halt and stop, and they came up in this Bible code. But in addition to that, I've noticed some other words, such as the words cut off, which are coming up right in the text, right here, as you can see. The words cut off come right in the text, and it's coming right through the word election. And then you have some other words that I tried. This was a synonym for suspend, so I tried the word hung, and that came up in ELS form. You can see it right here in the bluish purple. It's going through the word election as well. The letters H, U, and G. And then cut off, we already talked about. I put in cut short, and that came up in ELS form. Well, actually the word cut is over here in the plain text, but the word short came up in ELS form. And you can see it here in the green with the letters S, H, O, R, T. Again, that's going through the word election. And then I put curtail in, which I had to break up in 2 parts, but that came up as well. You see the first part right here with the letters C, U, R, and it meshes in with the second part of the word, which is the letters T, A, I, L in the bright blue here. And then you see the word halt coming up at an angle in the pink with the letters H, A, L, T. This is right next to Jehovah, which is interesting. And then the word stop was coming up in ELS form, going right through the word election in the lavender with the letters S, T, O, P. Now, another thing that I had noticed about this table was that in the text over here, it had this really peculiar phrase which says, "And the man of thine whom I shall not cut off from mine altar shall be to consume thine eyes, and to grieve thy heart, and all the increase of thy house shall die in the flower of their age." Well, this sounds eerily like what's written in Zechariah 14:12, where it gives a description of nuclear war, and this would be the effect of a nuclear explosion. It would cause the eyes to be consumed or to melt. And then the rest of this phrase, this verse right here, sounds eerily like a nuclear event as well. We're talking about shall die in the flower of their age. I mean, it's just a very peculiar verse in the scriptures. But I was curious about this word consume, and I was wondering if it was the same word that's used in Zechariah 14, and I realized that it's a different word, but I want to show you the meaning of this word. Okay, it's right here in 1 Samuel 2:33. You see the word consume right here, and I was wondering what the actual meaning of this word is, and it actually means to cease. It means to be completed, or to put an end to, or to cease. Okay, so I thought that was interesting because that pretty much goes along with the theme here in terms of halt, stop, cut short. And so I tried to put in the word cease. And let's see if I can find that. It's right here. So I tried to put in the word cease, and that came up as well. So you have consume right here in the plain text right in the middle of the word election. And the word consume in the Hebrew means to cease or put an end to. And then you see the word cease coming up here in ELS form. And it's sharing the C in command or commanded. And then over here you have chief. So it could be interpreted as the commander-in-chief commanding the election to cease. I mean, that's just a possible interpretation. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it's interesting that it shares the C in command, and right within that you have the word chief. And I'll read the matrix in a little bit so you can see how that reads. But you see the word cease coming up here with the letters C, E, A, S, E. Or actually might be this C that it's sharing. I think it's this one. C, E, A, S, E. So it's sharing the C in chief. And it's saying command over here in the lavender. And let me just read the verse here so you can see how it reads. In fact, I'll read the whole matrix. It says, "Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and at mine offering which I have commanded in my habitation, and honorest thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel my people. Therefore Jehovah the God of Israel saith, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever. But now Jehovah saith, be it far from me, for them that honor me will I honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed. Behold, the days come that I will cut off thine arm and the arm of thy father's house, that there shall not be an old man in thy house. And thou shalt behold the affliction of my habitation, in the wealth which God shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thy house forever. And the man of thine whom I shall not cut off from mine altar shall be to consume thine eyes, and to grieve thy heart, and all the increase of thy house shall die in the flower of their age. And this shall be the sign unto thee, that shall come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas, in one day shall they die both of them. And I will raise up a faithful priest, that shall do according to that which is in my heart and in my mind, and I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before mine anointed forever." So of course this sounds like the return of Christ right here, and it's coming up in this matrix that seems to be alluding to the election coming to a halt, being caused to cease. And then you had words vote and poll. They came up in ELS form as well. You can see vote here in the green, and it looks like it's sharing the E here in chief. So of course the vote would be for the commander-in-chief. That's what the president would be. And so you see that here in the green with the letters V, O, T, E. And then you see poll coming up here in the yellow with the letters P, O, L, L. And that was a synonym for the word vote. Okay, now there's some other really important terms that came up in this matrix that I'll go over in a little bit. And then this is a different matrix that comes up. But I thought it was interesting because this one comes up in Romans 11, 1 through 8. And of course today is November 8th. But I want to get to this matrix right here, because this one is really important, because this one seems to be alluding to nuclear war as well. So I thought it was important to share this matrix, and it's coming up in Isaiah 64, 1 through 9. And this also has the word consume in it as well. And so I'm going to read that matrix. In fact, I'll go ahead and read the matrix because I think it's really important to read that first. But as you can see, the word election is coming up once again in ELS form in this one. So it's really amazing that an 8-character word would come up in 2 different matrices, because it's very difficult to find an 8-character word in the codes. And so it's coming up in not just one matrix, but 2. And both of these matrices seem to be alluding to nuclear war. So I want to go ahead and read this one as well. And of course, this is about the return of Christ also. And it's about the 6th seal, basically. It says over here, "Oh, that thou wouldest rend the heavens." Rend means to tear or split the heavens. "That thou wouldest come down, that the mountains might quake at thy presence, as when fire kindleth the brushwood, and the fire causeth the waters to boil, to make thy name known to thine adversaries, that the nations may tremble at thy presence. When thou didst tremble, things which we looked not for, thou camest down, the mountains quaked at thy presence. For from of old men have not heard, nor perceived by ear, neither hath the eye seen a God besides thee, who worketh for him that waiteth for him. Thou meetest him that rejoiceth, and worketh righteousness. Those that remember thee in thy ways, behold, thou wast wroth, and we have sinned in them. We have been of long time, and shall we be saved? For we are all become as one that is unclean, and all our righteousnesses are as a polluted garment, and we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, take us away. And there is none that calleth upon thy name, that stirreth up himself to take hold of thee. For thou hast hid thy face from us, and hast consumed us by means of our iniquities. But now, O Jehovah, thou art our Father, and we are the clay, and thou our potter, and we are all the work of thy hand. Be not wroth very sore, O Jehovah, neither remember iniquity forever. Behold, look, we beseech thee, we are all thy people. Okay, so this sounds like a plea to God for forgiveness for all of our iniquities, those of us who look for him, that waiteth for him, as it says right here in the scriptures. And so it sounds like a plea for God to forgive us, and it's also talking about the wrath of God here. It's talking about the fire that kindleth the brushwood, etc. When Jesus comes back, it says, thou camest down, the mountains quaked at thy presence. So God is going to come back in wrath, in judgment, but he's also going to come back in forgiveness for those who repent of their sins and for those who are looking for him for his appearance. And I'm about out of time in this video, so I'm going to have to continue in the next video. But an important thing that I wanted to point out in terms of the terms halt and stop that come up in the text, I just wanted to say that even though the election takes place today, it's not until the inauguration, which is January 20th, that the power is actually transferred to the new president, I believe. So something could happen within this time frame during the process of the transfer of power, even if the election does take place today. But I just wanted to get this out as a warning, just in case there is an event that causes the election to be stopped. And like I said, I'll continue with more in the next video. Thank you.